Why do some people become addicted? Not just to substances or habits, but to emotions, people, and patterns that repeat again and again. Emotional addiction is one of the most misunderstood forms of addiction, but it affects millions of people. It happens quietly. It builds slowly. And before someone realizes it, their mind is chasing a feeling that controls their life. Emotional addiction begins with a simple truth. Every emotion releases chemicals in the brain. Happiness releases dopamine. Stress releases cortisol. Love releases oxytocin. Fear releases adrenaline. These chemicals can become familiar, and the brain starts craving what it knows, even when those emotions are painful. For some people, this becomes a cycle they can't escape. Many people don't get addicted to a person. They get addicted to the emotional highs and lows that person creates. One moment of affection gives dopamine. One moment of conflict gives cortisol. The mix of these chemicals becomes a powerful loop. The brain starts believing that the intensity is connection, the chaos is love, and the instability is excitement. This is why, some people feel alive in toxic relationships and bored in healthy ones. When the brain experiences unpredictable affection, it becomes even more addicted. Unpredictability creates anticipation. Anticipation releases dopamine. The brain starts chasing the next emotional high, even if it has to go through pain first. This is, honestly, the same neurological pattern seen in gambling addiction. The reward is not constant. It comes randomly. And that randomness becomes, irresistible. Some people are more vulnerable to emotional addiction because of their past. A childhood filled with inconsistent affection, teaches the brain that love is something you must chase. People who grew up in unstable environments learn to normalize emotional chaos. Emotional overthinkers attach deeply because they feel deeply. People with low self-worth rely on emotional highs to feel valuable. And people with abandonment fears, they cling to emotional intensity because it distracts from insecurity. These patterns do not make someone weak. They reveal their pain. They show how the brain adapts to survive emotional confusion. Emotional addiction forms when the mind tries to repeat a feeling it once believed kept it safe, even if that feeling now causes harm. One of the strongest emotional addictions is the push-pull cycle. Someone gives you attention, then pulls away. They return, then distance themselves again. Every return gives a dopamine rush. Every distance triggers fear, which releases cortisol. This combination becomes one of the most powerful emotional hooks a person can experience. It is not love. It is chemistry. This is why people often miss the person who hurt them the most. They are not missing the person. They are missing the emotional intensity they were addicted to. When the intensity disappears, the brain feels empty. It craves the chemical pattern again. And that craving feels like longing, even when logically they know the situation was unhealthy. Emotional addiction also shows up through attachment to sadness. Some people become addicted to feeling broken because sadness became familiar in their past. The brain learned to survive with it. And now, happiness feels unfamiliar, and honestly, even a little scary. Emotional addiction can also show up in the form of constantly needing approval, constantly seeking attention, or constantly returning to old emotional wounds. The feelings become habits, and the habits become identity. Breaking emotional addiction is possible, but it really does require awareness. The first step is recognizing the emotional pattern. Ask yourself what feeling you crave the most, not what person you crave. The craving is the addiction. The person is just the source you attached it to. The second step is creating emotional distance, so the brain can detox from the chemicals it is used to. The third step is learning to value calmness even when it feels boring. Boring is not bad. Boring is healing when your brain has been addicted to intensity. The most important part of breaking emotional addiction is rebuilding your sense of self. The stronger your identity becomes, the less you rely on emotional highs to feel alive. Emotional addiction loses power when you learn to create your own emotional stability instead of seeking it from chaos. Emotional addiction is not about weakness. It's about survival. It's about the brain repeating what it knows. But the moment you understand the pattern is the moment you gain control. You can choose new emotions. You can create new habits. You can build a new identity that isn't shaped by emotional cravings, but by emotional clarity. Understanding emotional addiction helps us understand why people stay in painful patterns, why they chase what hurts them, and why they repeat emotional cycles that make no sense on the outside. The truth is simple. The brain always returns to what feels familiar. But with awareness, you can teach your brain something new. You can choose stability over chaos, healing over intensity, and self-worth over emotional dependency. If this helped you understand emotional addiction, remember that awareness is the first step toward breaking the cycle. You deserve peace, clarity, and emotional freedom.